What's up, Guardians, and welcome back, Hunters. I'm Profane, thanks for checking out the video. We're back at it today with a monster of a new Night Stalker build. This new Void build will be perfect for taking on all the latest in-game content, thanks to the dazzling combination of 2 extraordinary exotics and a handful of powerful artifact mods. Today's build features the Gerfalcon Hauberk, and even though this exotic performs exceptionally well whenever used on Prismatic, we will be focusing on its use with the Void subclass. I find that this exotic has much better synergy whenever used with Void because of the readily available access to things like Overshields, Devour, and weakening effects. This exotic comes with a See Me, Feel Me intrinsic trait, which provides us with several incredible benefits. The first is that after we've come out of invisibility, our Void weapons will be granted with volatile rounds, which will last for 9 seconds. Void weapons with volatile rounds will be able to pierce barrier champion shields, and as we cause enemies to become volatile, they will trigger Void explosions, which will greatly improve our ability to manage large groups of enemies. The second benefit of this exotic is that when we perform a finisher, whenever we are invisible, we will trigger a 6-second damage buff, granting all of our Void weapons with a 35% increase in damage. After performing invisible finishers, we will provide ourselves and allies with a reserve overshield. This overshield will be valued at 45 HP, and it will provide us with a 70% bonus in damage resistance. And up until those overshields are activated, you and allies will gain a 500% increase in the regeneration rate of your class ability. So as long as we're able to optimize on our ability to go invisible and actively seek out finishers, we're going to be able to deal out a significant amount of bonus damage, allowing us to mow through big groups of enemies or single high value targets, and thanks to a near infinite supply of overshields, we'll be able to outlast the most brutal of engagements. This exotic will pair up with just about any Void-centric weapon loadout that includes exotics like Graviton Lance, Luminarch, or Leviathan's Breath. But it's the new exotic shotgun, the Slayer's Fang, that really brings out the full potential of this build, and gives us a lot more versatility as a Night Stalker hunter. Night Stalker hunters tend to excel at support roles, and are usually more effective at mid and long range distances. But the addition of the Slayer's Fang lets us close the gap and become more aggressive, helping us be much more effective in close quarter combat. This exotic slug shotgun stuns overload champions, and it creates sub-munitions on impact. Those sub-munitions not only weaken enemies, but they're going to deal a considerable amount of damage, and when this weapon's intrinsic perk is active, we'll gain a 15% increase in precision damage, and you'll be surprised at how effective this weapon is even at a distance. This shotgun also deals 10% increased damage against fallen and scorn enemies, so it'll be especially useful in activities that host those factions. If the ability to stun overloads, weaken targets, and deal bonus damage wasn't enough, the Slayer's Fang also provides us with a Void overshield whenever using the Repulsor Brace Catalyst refit. This will trigger those overshields whenever defeating enemies who are suppressed, weakened, or volatile. And since most of the enemies that we engage with will be weakened or volatile, we'll be able to maintain the benefits of those overshields for as long as we're in combat. When it comes to our Void subclass, we are utilizing the benefits of Trapper's Ambush and Stylish Executioner. Stylish Executioner will trigger invisibility whenever we defeat a debuffed enemy, and since that includes enemies who are suppressed, volatile, and weakened, we'll be able to optimize on our use of the Gerfalcons. Trapper's Ambush gives us a close-ranged melee attack. This will weaken enemies, and in the process of slamming, we will become invisible, and at that point we'd be able to perform a finisher on most any low-ranking enemy, to be able to trigger our bonus weapon damage and our overshield. And anything that's still standing after the finisher will be brought to a quick end with the Slayer's Fang. We could make use of Marksman Dodge to reduce how often we would need to reload weapons like the Slayer's Fang, but by using Gambler's Dodge, we can instantly replenish our melee energy, which will help us weaken more targets. When it comes to our choice in Fragments, we are using Echo of Persistence, because this is going to extend our timer for invisibility and our overshields, and because we are using Echo of Starvation, it's going to extend the duration of Devour. This is going to grant us with Devour whenever we pick up an Orb of Power or a Void Breach, and because of Echo of Harvest, whenever we defeat a weakened enemy, we will create an Orb of Power and a Void Breach. Void Breaches have a 9-second cooldown between creation, and each time one is collected, we will gain a 12% bump to our class ability energy. We'll be able to weaken enemies with our Smoke Bomb, Tether, and Slayer's Fang, but because we are using Echo of Undermining, our grenades are also going to weaken enemies, which means that once we've gotten a big group of enemies weakened, we're going to become a fountain of orbs and Void Breaches. Adding in the effects of Devour is especially beneficial for us, as this will directly improve our durability in in-game content. Whenever Devour is active, every final blow is going to restore our health bar and provide us with bonus grenade energy. With all of these fragments and aspects working so well together, we'll be able to consistently rely on the bonus overshields and the bonus damage that the Gerfalcons provides us. And that's why I find the Void subclass to be a much better choice whenever using the Gerfalcon Hauberk. Now when it comes to our artifact mods, we've got quite a few that will have a direct impact on our performance. With the Gerfalcons relying on finishers, we can utilize the benefits of Debilitating Wave, which will increase our capabilities of spreading weakening effects. Whenever we perform a finisher, a burst of void energy will be let out, and all nearby enemies will be weakened. If we were to add in a grenade launcher like the Wither Horde, the Lost Signal, or Edge Transit, we could take advantage of the Concussive Reload mod, which would cause those weapons to trigger weakening effects against high-value targets. With the Supernova mod active, we'll be able to trigger another burst of weakening effects against enemies with any source of void damage, but this is only after collecting a Void Breach, so it's only a benefit that we're able to trigger once every 10 seconds. And that's going to work out the same for the Old God's Rights, which creates a rain cloud of void projectiles above enemies, but this is only after engaging those enemies with void abilities or weapons after collecting a Void Breach. This is a really cool new mod, but because it relies on collecting Void Breaches, it can be hard to target this against specific enemies, but even still, it's great whenever used against large groups of enemies. The last standout artifact mod that we're using is the Thick of It, and that's going to help us generate extra armor charges. Armor charges that we could make use of with utility Kickstart, which would increase the use of our class ability by converting those armor charges into class ability energy whenever we perform a dodge. But we could also use those armor charges to fuel weapon surge mods. The Gerfalcons will provide us with increased void damage after performing an invisible finisher, but if we were to use weapon surges, we would be able to sustain that increased damage for a much longer duration. When it comes to the rest of our armor mods, our main goal is to increase our production of orbs of power, but we also want to make sure that we have adequate ammo to be able to make use of the Slayer's Fang, so we are using special ammo finder mods, reserve mods, and a special finisher mod. This will convert armor charges into special ammo whenever performing a finisher, and because of our increased generation of orbs and armor charges, we'll be able to make use of this even when using weapon surges or utility Kickstart. When it comes to the main character stats that we want to focus on, we want to try to maintain Tier 10 resilience and mobility. Tier 10 resilience will reduce incoming damage by 30%, and by having Tier 10 mobility, we will have the shortest cooldown of our class ability. And since our dodge recharges our melee, we're not going to have to worry as much about focusing on strength. And since Devour generates bonus grenade energy for us, we don't have to invest much into discipline. In a lot of ways, this Gerfalcon Hauberk Night Stalker build performs just like it did back in its glory days, back before Prismatic. But because of key additions from our new artifact and the Slayer's Fang exotic shotgun, this build is more powerful than ever, and it's most definitely worth checking out. So if you're a hunter looking for a top tier build to help you and your team get through any endgame content here in Revenant, be sure to check out today's build. And if you need help putting together today's build, be sure to check out my Mobalytics link that's down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about the Gerfalcons, the Slayer's Fang, and the current state of Hunters and Destiny. Let us know your thoughts down below. I wish you all the best of luck out there. Thank you as always for checking out the video. If you enjoyed and found it helpful, then be sure to hit that like button below, along with the subscribe button if you're new. Both are greatly appreciated, and both really do help support the channel. And until next time, Guardians, this has been Profane, wishing you all some happy hunting.